What is up, guys? I'm Mike Willoughby. Welcome back to another episode of the Steel Corner. Today is March 21st, 2023. Let's get into it. Tonight we're going straight to the book. We're going right back to The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. We're going to go to the essential points from chapter 15. There's a list of 7 habits that he talks about. Number 1 is show up. Be the frog who jumps off the lily pad. Number 2, show up consistently. Keep showing up when others fade out. Number 3 is cultivate a positive outlook. See the glass as overflowing. Number 4 is be committed for the long haul. Remember the 10,000 hour rule. Just as a side note, these days the 10,000 hour rule is considered overly broad. If you don't know, back in the day, somebody did a study on some of these savants, these experts in their fields, and came to the conclusion that they put in about 10,000 hours of practice to become world class at something. But these days, they recognize that you have to have some feedback loops. You have to be able to recognize problems within your own practice. You can't just put in hours and hours and not make changes and fix errors along the way. So it's focusing during those hours and being able to correct the mistakes that you're making. That's what turns people into world class. It's not just the hours by themselves. Number 5 is cultivate a burning desire backed by faith. Not hoping or wishing, knowing. Number 6 is be willing to pay the price. Sometimes you have to quit the softball team. And what he's talking about here is sometimes you have conflicting hobbies, you have conflicting efforts. You have this huge goal that you want to hit in one thing. Say it's competition shooting, you want to be a GM, or you want to shoot like a GM. You want to go win the World Speed Shooting Championship, whatever it is, whatever your huge goal is, but you have another priority that's taking time away from that goal. Sometimes you're going to have to shift your priorities to where you actually want them to be. If you actually want to go win the World Speed Shooting Championship, then you're going to have to shift some things in your life. You're going to have to make sacrifices in other areas. You can't just do everything and be great at everything without putting the time in towards your goal. And number 7, practice slight edge integrity. Do the things that you've committed to doing, even when no one else is watching. So some of these things will play into a little bit of what we're talking about tonight, which is setting yourself up for success. Before a match, during a match, what are some things that you should be aware of? What are some things that you should be thinking about? And how do you stay focused? How do you stay on task for the day? So let's get into it. The first match performance topic that we're going to talk about leading up to a match is sleep. A lot of people don't realize how critical getting adequate sleep is. These days, it's considered 7 to 9 hours, and anything under 6 is going to greatly impact your performance. I am not a scientist. However, you can watch my preferred source is the Huberman Lad podcast. He talks all about sleep, whatever topic that you're into, workout, fitness, nutrition, hydration. I'm pretty sure he has episodes on everything. He has a ton of episodes and a lot of material on sleep. He reviews the latest scientific materials so that you don't have to, or you can go out there and read all the studies for yourself. Either way, you should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, or else don't expect to be performing at your best. I know that we're all busy. I know that things get in the way. You've got family, you've got kids, you've got workouts that you're trying to cram in. You know, you're trying to catch up on the latest TV series on Netflix. You got to get up for that midnight snack. But the fact of the matter is, if you're getting less than 6 hours of sleep, you're significantly impacting your performance. So if you're trying to perform your best on any given day, do your best to get 6 hours of sleep. If you can't get that much dedicated sleep, try to get that much rest. Sometimes when you go to major matches, you're in a new place, you're in a hotel, maybe it's noisy. I personally always travel with earplugs, and I always travel with an eye mask. That way, if it's bright in the room for some reason, the neighbors are noisy, there's kids kicking and screaming, or I'm next to a busy door, none of that is going to impact my sleep. So that's some of my sleep tips. Other than that, I have a general time when I want to be heading to bed based off what time I'm waking up. So just keep an eye on the time as the evening approaches. Don't start big projects when it's getting later in the night and you know that you won't finish them and also have enough time to sleep. So this is something that I struggle with too. None of us are immune to it, but it's something to be aware of when you're trying to get the most out of your performances. Next up is hydration. Now, there is no one-size-fits-all advice when it comes to hydration. I'd love to just say drink a gallon a day and that'll be it. Some people do that. That works for some people. Me personally, when I drink that much, I don't like running to the bathroom that much, especially on match days when you're dealing with porta potties that are on the other side of the range. I do not like drinking that much on match days, but this is about to be really important with the summer months coming up. So for hydration, you need to be hydrating and making sure that you're hydrating the week leading up to, at least a few days leading up to the big event that you want to perform at. So that means if your event's on Saturday, you should definitely be hydrated on Friday, not going out and drinking after a long day of drinking just coffee. You shouldn't be going out and drinking alcohol after that. If you do, chug some water and some body armor and some electrolytes with it to give yourself the best chance of success after that. But Thursday even, you should be thinking about your hydration levels. And then on the day itself, I usually keep a gallon jug with me, and I'll refill my smaller water bottle off of that. Sometimes at these major matches, there will be water. At local matches, sometimes we'll have water, and sometimes you'll see Gatorade or something at major matches. But do not depend on the range to have anything for you. Stop at the gas station on the way if you have to, but bring something with some electrolytes if you can. Try to drink water every single stage. Don't wait till you get thirsty. This is going to be so important with the summer coming up, guys. Another thing that impacts your hydration and is something that you want to consider when it starts getting hotter and it's like summer conditions out there is your sun exposure. So me personally, I'm pretty light-skinned. I work in a dark closet. I do not do great with sun exposure, so I personally usually wear like a sun hoodie or sleeves, the little rash guards that go over your arms and cover them up. My legs I usually leave out because short shorts, hot girl summer, you know what it is. Just use sunscreen. So always use sunscreen, and then where you can, just limit your sun exposure. One of the reasons that I invested in one of the huge range tactical gear carts is I can put a 9-foot umbrella in it and be pretty protected from the sun. We can roll it close up to the line so that the RO can stand under it and everything. It's really nice to have. Definitely not mandatory, but make sure you're covering up, not getting a sunburn every weekend, and using sunscreen all the time in the summer. And stay hydrated, because those long days, especially if you're doing 2 days in a row, Saturday, Sunday at a major, if you're not hydrating Thursday and Friday, and you start getting even more dehydrated on Saturday, you're not going to be having a good time on Sunday. So don't chance it. Just do the right thing. Keep it in mind. Take the extra 2 trips to the porta potty that day because you're not super dehydrated, and have a good time out there. Next up, we've got food. I don't think there's too much to say on this topic. Obviously, you should be carrying something with you at the range to eat throughout the day. Don't just go to the range with nothing on you and you get stuck there until 5, 6 p.m., maybe even later depending on the match. If it's a major match and you got 2 flights that day, you may end up there all day. Do not depend on the range to have anything for you. Maybe there's a food truck, but it doesn't sit well with your stomach. I always take my own food. If a food truck looks great, I may give it a try if I have extra time. Usually it's more of a timing thing than I don't want to eat that thing. But the night before, obviously don't eat anything that's going to have you going to the porta potty 6 times that day. So don't chance it. Stick to stuff that you know if you can. A lot of people like to go out when you're out of town at a major. A lot of people like to go out and try new things. I will sometimes, but I prefer not to do that. It just limit the unknowns within your days, especially on days that matter to you. I'm in the military, I'm in the Navy, so a big thing is people before their PT test, if they haven't been working out a ton, they'll think, oh, I should just drink an energy drink before my PT test. Never mind, I've never had one of these before. Never mind, I'm caffeine sensitive. And then they'll come show up for their PT test and have a really bad day. They'll be throwing up everywhere, or they'll think that they're hyperventilating and like having a heart attack and have to stop. Things like that happen. So just avoid unknowns. If you don't normally take caffeine, don't try to take caffeine at a match for the first time. If you don't normally eat crazy, greasy, fast food, don't go out the night before your major and eat crazy, greasy, fast food. Bring some protein bars, bring some energy bars, whatever you want and is convenient for you to the range. I prefer fruit and stuff, but I don't eat that on the range because of the lead on my hands. I don't want to be handling fruit with my bare hands at a match. So usually during a match, I'll eat protein bars or whatever. Then after I've had a chance to wash my hands, get cleaned up, then I'll go back and eat whatever I brought with me in the car, which is usually fruit or something like that. Let's talk a little bit about fitness. Now, you do not need to be an athlete to be an amazing steel challenge shooter. You do not need to be able to run a mile in a certain amount of time. You do not need to be able to do a certain number of pull-ups. You do not need to be able to do any of that. As a matter of fact, on Outer Limits, if you're efficient with everything else during that stage, you can almost walk between the boxes and still get a GM score. I've tried it in dry fire, and if you're falling out of the first box as you break your second shot and you break a good shot on that, you come into the other box, you come in with your gun up, ready to break the shot as soon as you get your second foot off the ground so that you're completely within the shooting area. You break off 3 clean shots from there. You can almost walk that distance in Outer Limits. So you do not need to be a crazy athlete to be highly competitive in this sport. However, what I will say is there is absolutely no scenario where being more fit will be a detriment to you. There's no scenario where you're going to get to the top of a hill at a match and you're going to be like, wow, I really wish I was way heavier and it winded me way more to get up this hill. That's never going to be the case. So as far as fitness goes, Steel Challenge is already mostly a competition with yourself. If I go to a match and I win one day, but it's because everybody else had a bad day and their guns were malfunctioning, it doesn't really matter. All I care about is how I perform compared to how I normally perform. Did I get any PBs? Was I consistent that day? Did I get all GM stages? Or did I have a couple A-class stages in there and I was completely inconsistent? That's what I care about. Talking about fitness, there's no scenario where you competing against yourself, you will benefit from being less fit. So the more fit you get, the better you're going to be at competing against yourself. Even if you're completely unfit and you're already smoking everybody at the range, there's just no scenario where being more fit will be a detriment to you. So for me personally, my fitness routine these days involves every single day workouts, but sometimes those are hard runs, sometimes they're easy runs, sometimes it's a stair machine. I try to do a little bit of strength work at least 3 to 5 times a week, a lot of push-ups, a lot of pull-ups, some weights in there. And then the morning of a match, I usually don't like to do anything crazy. For a while, I was still sticking to my normal morning workouts, which at the time were like 4, 5, 6 mile runs in the morning before the match. I don't prefer to do that, but I do like to do something before a match if I can. I haven't been great about it these days. Even just like a 1 mile run, half-mile run, something to get the blood flowing and to get woken up. That way you're not rolling up to the range half asleep. I find it helps to wake you up, help get you more alert and in tune. That way when you roll up to your first stage, you're not trying to figure out what's going on in life because you're still half asleep. That's what I like to do these days. I wouldn't recommend doing super crazy workouts the night before either. So what I found when I was doing longer runs before shooting a match or even the night before, so if I did like a 10, 12 mile run the night before a match, is I would just be super stiff the next day and just really uncomfortable. So I don't like to do that the morning of or the night before a match, but sometimes things happen. You got to get your workouts in too. But if you can, try to rearrange your schedule so that you're not doing super crazy intense things that are going to take you away from shooting when you're shooting. All right, guys, that's going to do it tonight. For topics to consider leading up to a match, ways to keep focused during a match, and things not to let distract you. Hopefully some of this information was helpful, and hopefully you're going to be able to use some of it going forward. In the future, I want to put together an entire episode on a couple of these topics when I was laying out the list of them, and I was running it by my awesome editor. Just kidding, I don't have an editor, but she proofreads all my stuff. So when I was going through all that, she mentioned that these would make great full episodes, and I think she is right. So one of those is gear maintenance and testing before a match, because I see a lot of people showing up to a match with an unzeroed optic, a trigger that they haven't tested, a new load that they haven't tested. There's ways to do all of these things because I completely understand that not all of us can make it to a range during the week. I'm pretty bad about that myself. So If you can't make it to a range during the week and the match on the weekend is the only place that you can test it that week, how do you do that? How do you recover when the things do not go right? And how do you plan for success? So that will be one video. And then another video that I'll do in this series talking about ways to maintain focus or maintaining focus during the match itself. So some things that we'll talk about are shifting work roles. So going from painting, scoring, ROing to getting in the box and shooting yourself. That sounded weird. Not shooting yourself, but shooting, comma, yourself. We'll talk about how to recover from a bad string. You have a breakdown on string 3. You didn't have a great string 1 and 2. See, a lot of people melt down and just completely let the stage go. When if they stayed focused, brought home a solid string 4 and 5, they could have a solid stage time. It may be 5 to 10% below what they were wanting, but a lot of people, when they don't get that perfect 100% speed that they are used to, they'll just throw away the stage. And that's how you add time during an 8 stage that you can't afford if you're trying to be competitive in this sport. And then we'll talk a little bit about tracking your scores versus not tracking your scores. Should you or do I keep track of my scores during a match? The answer is it depends. And we'll talk about the pros and cons of some of that and some things that I think you should absolutely stay away from. So hopefully you're looking forward to those coming up. All right, let's close out tonight talking a little bit about what's going on. This past week, I shot Quantico on Sunday. It was a beautiful day on Saturday. It was not a beautiful day on Sunday. We started shooting, I think it was like 27 degrees. Warmed up a little bit throughout the day, but not much. And the wind was kicking. So I shot RFPO for the first time in a few months. I've been running RFPI. I finally hit 100% with that. So I'm giving that a little bit of a break right now. I think I'll probably switch back to RFPO for the foreseeable future, just because that's what I plan on running primarily during the season, going for Steelmaster, which I still need to figure out if I'm going to go for production and stick to the 320 platform that I'm running in Carry Optics, or if I'm going to go back to Iron Sight Revolver, just because I'm used to it. I'm not sure yet. I've only ran one match with the 320 irons, so I need some more time on them. I don't even know where they're hitting right now. I just threw them on the slide, took them to a match. Quantico this Sunday, ran RFPO. Time was a 75-15, 93% overall. Started off really bad on 5 to go, had an 1135 total. It's like a 79%. And then Smoke and Hope was an 89%. Speed option was an 89%, but everything else was GM stages. Let's see, 100% on Showdown. Outer Limits was a 97%. Accelerator was a 97%. Pendulum was a PB, actually. I uploaded shorts on YouTube and Instagram of that, if you want to see that run. 895 total for Pendulum. 106%. That was a PB for me, which doesn't happen very often with RFPO. And then Roundabout was 96%. So that was RFPO. Total time was a 75-15. And Carry Optics ran 93% overall, 100.79 seconds. Started off 5 to go, 99%. Showdown, 98%. Smoke and Hope gave away some time, 96%. Outer Limits, 89%. Had a pretty bad string in there. Everything else was okay, but I had a miss on the first string. Just went to the stop plate a little bit too quick after missing the back plate. So on string 3, I had a 6-second run. Had to eat that because I had that miss on the first string. Accelerator, 81%. Not good on that. That was probably my worst stage of the day. Yep, that was my worst stage of the day. Pendulum, 94%. Definitely gave away some time there. Had to eat a 3.8 and a 4.0. Had a couple sub 3s in there, though, where I should be. Then speed option, I actually PB'd. That was a 1302 total for a 99% overall. That was awesome. And then Roundabout, 88%. Also had a miss on that and had to eat a 3.45. Otherwise, I had a 2.35 in there, which was cool. And then I also had to eat a 3. So I had some makeup shots. Wasn't too bad overall. It was a pretty cold day, so we were going back and forth with hand warmers and everything else. Showdown was also a PB for me, even though it still isn't even 100%. I just haven't connected on that stage super great yet. Really looking forward to it warming up, getting some more consistent matches. Stop having to like shuffle gloves on and off. Stop having to use 25 hand warmers during a match. Really looking forward to that. So overall, I cut almost half a second this weekend. And carry optic will be easily under 100. This weekend, it is the first match back for 2023 at Shadowhawk. I'm shooting that on Sunday now because Saturday is a 90% chance of rain. We're going to be a little bit colder. Sunday, hopefully it's going to be beautiful out. And then here in a couple weeks, we've got the Falling Steel World Series in Ohio is the week of the 14th of April. And then we've got the Pennsylvania State Steel Challenge Championship, which is starting on the 19th of May. And then we've got Area 8 coming up for the 21st of July. Hopefully some of my work commitments have died down. By the end of June, early July, we can start hitting some of these majors. That'll do it for tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to all my new subscribers. Thank you all for sharing this with your friends, your family, all the groups that you're in. Thank you so much. It really helped. We jumped from 69 subscribers up to 94 in no time. It was amazing. So thank you all for sharing my material. Hope you're enjoying it. Let me know what you want to hear about. Let me know how I can make this better. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.